Dawn, 12th of May 2023, Imran Khan called in the army's heavy hitters as the Chinese enslaved Pakistan. Massive protests broke out throughout the nation on Tuesday as the former Prime Minister Imran Khan was taken into custody on the grounds of the Islamabad High Court. Punjab and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa saw the most opposition to the plan, with demonstrators assembling outside military barracks, the General Headquarters (GHQ) in Rawalpindi, and Frontier Crops offices. In response to the deteriorating law and order situation in critical cities throughout Pakistan, the Interior Ministry authorized army deployment in Islamabad, Punjab, and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa on Wednesday. Here is a timeline of all the significant occasions when governments have requested troops to uphold law and order. While the army has been requisitioned for various reasons, including general and provincial elections, recent floods, earthquakes, and the COVID-19 pandemic, this timeline shows the significant events. Language riots in Dhaka on February 21, 1952. East Pakistan, now Bangladesh, saw one of the earliest instances of the army being called to uphold law and order. Since independence, language has been a sensitive topic. The language debate was reignited on January 26, 1952, when Khawaja Nazimuddin, the country's then Prime Minister, declared that Urdu will be the state language of Pakistan during a meeting of the Muslim League, the ruling party, in Dhaka. Demonstrations and public gatherings are forbidden under Section 144 of the Code of Criminal Procedure, which the state implemented on February 20. According to the Movement for the Bengali Language, Bengali and Urdu were intended as the state's official languages. The English language daily The Pakistan Observer, which supported the Bengali language demand, was outlawed by the provincial government to quell the protests. Students protested against the restriction, primarily from Dhaka University. The army was then requested to restore law and order at this point. As a result, several students were killed, hundreds were hurt, and thousands were taken into custody. The government-supporting morning news office, owned by Prime Minister Nazimuddin's family, was set on fire by the protesters. UNICEF has designated February 21 as International Mother Language Day since 1999. Other early occasions in which the army was called in to re-establish the authority of the civil administration included the significant riots in Dhaka in 1950 and the labor unrest in 1954. Anti-Ahmadi riots on March 5, 1953. The army was used in West Pakistan to keep the populace under control during the anti-Ahmadi riots in Lahore in 1953. A Sunni pressure group called Majlis-e-Khatmi Nabuwat and Jamaat-e-Islami led the demand that Ahmadis be recognized as a non-Muslim minority. They also called for the dismissal of the previous foreign minister, Zafrullah Khan, and a ban on Ahmadis working for the government. Martial law was proclaimed in Lahore on March 5 due to the rioters burning 2 post offices, 8 buses, and a police station and killing a deputy police superintendent. There were violent protests, and in Lahore, Sialkot, Gujranwala, Rawalpindi, Faisalabad, and Shahewal, mobs set Ahmadi-owned buildings on fire. 10 people died, and 74 were injured due to police shooting. Before the situation eased down on March 9, 11 additional persons perished. 3 religious leaders who headed the campaign, including Maulana Maududi, the chairman of Jamaat-e-Islami at the time, were prosecuted by a military court and given the death penalty. Under criticism from the international community, mainly Muslim nations like Egypt, the death penalty was ultimately commuted to life in prison. Military action to retake control of East Pakistan on March 25, 1971. The 1970 national elections saw the Awami League win 167 of 313 seats, giving them an absolute majority in East Pakistan. However, the military dictator General Yahya Khan, who was in office then, refused to give East Pakistan federal authority. As a result, there were several protests, and the Awami League started a non-cooperation movement. The Awami League leader at the time, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, backed by the majority in East Pakistan, declared, "This struggle is the struggle for freedom, this struggle is the struggle for independence." After Yahya postponed the National Assembly's meeting in Dhaka on March 1, hostilities between the East Pakistani Bengali community and the West Pakistan supporting Bihari community worsened, with Bengali mobs allegedly killing many Biharis in Chittagong. The central government of Pakistan then launched Operation Searchlight in East Pakistan using the Bihari massacre as justification. Other instances of military intervention between 1972 and 1977 include the language riots in Sindh in July 1972, laborer demonstrations in Landhi and Karachi, from October to November 1972, the conflict between the local tribal population and the civil administration in Dir, KP, in October 1976, unrest in the Patveeder area in Lasbela, Balochistan, from December 1972 to February 1973, and regular counterinsurgency operations in Balochistan starting in February 1973. Riots following the incident at the Rabwa railway station on May 29, 1974. On May 22, 1974, Multan's Nishtar Medical College students halted at the Rabwa train station en route to a field trip to the northern hill stations. When they returned from their vacation, Ahmadi students allegedly attacked them because they had been chanting anti-Ahmadi phrases. The neighborhood's stores and residences were destroyed once the word spread like wildfire. Notably, bloody riots took place in Lahore and Faisalabad. In June, military personnel were sent in to calm the situation. To support paramilitary forces in their efforts to stop the smuggling of food grain to India and Afghanistan, military help was also requested in 1974. PNA protests election rigging in April 1977. The Pakistan National Alliance, an alliance of 9 political parties, accused Zulfikar Ali Bhutto of rigging the elections after they were held on March 7, 1977, and the PPP was declared the winner. The PNA protested in the country's major cities, and the army was eventually called in to maintain order. As a result, martial law was imposed in Karachi, Lahore, and Hyderabad. Bushra Zaidi and the minibus incident in Karachi on April 6, 1985. According to reports, a minibus driver reportedly jumped a traffic light while racing with another driver and struck a group of Sir Syed College students in Liaquatabad, killing an Urdu-speaking student named Bushra Zaidi between 1984 and 1985. One such accidental death in 1985 sparked violent riots. The first wave of ethnic clashes between Pashtun and Mohajir communities started when students organized protests and were brutally suppressed by the police, who were also accused of molesting young female students after entering Sir Syed College. This sparked anger among the Urdu-speaking and Punjabi populations, and violence spread throughout the city in the following days. Dozens of people were killed on both sides of the conflict as young activists led by Islami Jamiat-i-Talaba, the student wing of the Jamaat-e-Islami, torched buses and minibuses in Liaquatabad and Nazimabad, the middle-class Urdu-speaking areas where the violence had started after Zaidi's death. Aligarh/Kasba Colony Massacre in Karachi, November to December 1986. After the Bushra Zaidi incident, ethnic tensions escalated in several Karachi neighborhoods. With the Aligarh/Kasba Colony slaughter serving as a critical hotspot, the army was called to re-establish order. Clashes between PSF and APMSO in February 1990. In February, the heavily armed student wings of both political parties engaged in widespread violence against one another in Karachi and Hyderabad, and there were numerous reports of kidnappings and torture of student leaders on both sides as a result of the breakdown of the MQM-PPP agreement after Benazir Bhutto was appointed Prime Minister. The violence, however, continued unabated and culminated in the May 26 to 27 incident in Hyderabad, where the security forces of the provincial government opened fire on a crowd protesting against the 16-hour-a-day curfew in the city. As a result, Benazir dismissed Sindh's chief minister and police inspector general in March for failing to maintain order. In response, armed Mohajir gangs attacked Sindhi neighborhoods, killing dozens of people. The violence spread to Karachi, where over 130 people were killed in 5 days. Eventually, more than 15,000 troops were deployed in June to Karachi to prevent further violence. The army was also called to other parts of the province to maintain law and order. Operation Cleanup or Blue Fox in Karachi in June 1992. Operation Cleanup, launched by then Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif in 1992, was later renamed Operation Blue Fox by then Prime Minister Benazir Bhutto. The military operation, which sought to bring peace and eliminate all terrorists regardless of political affiliation, started in June. However, the target of the army operation was MQM. As a result, MQM founder Altaf Hussain was forced into self-exile in the party that had been. On July 4, 2007, Army personnel were stationed near Lal Masjid. A significant episode that involved armed terrorists and the government in the nation's capital was the Lal Masjid incident. People connected to the madrasa sought to occupy a nearby government building, which sparked the conflict. Soon after, there was a violent altercation between the armed seminary students and the security personnel. Since Pakistan and the U.S. allied the wake of the 9/11 terror attacks in the U.S., the siege has been the Army's worst conflict with local militants. After reviewing the situation at a high-level meeting of senior government, security, and intelligence officials presided over by then-President General Pervez Musharraf, the Army launched a massive military operation that resulted in the deaths of more than 100 people, including 11 members of the armed forces. On December 28, 2007, troops were requested in reaction to violent protests following Benazir Bhutto's death. The nation descended into anarchy after former Prime Minister Benazir's assassination at a Rawalpindi rally. According to a 2008 assessment, the unrest that followed Benazir's murder cost Pakistan over $2 billion in lost tax revenue, foregone productivity, and infrastructural damage. At least 38 people have died in 3 days of unrest across Pakistan, with most fatalities reported in Sindh, the PPP's main power base. In Karachi, rioters set hundreds of businesses, offices, and banks on fire, train stations, and more than 70 trains, according to the Interior Ministry's initial rough estimate of the damage done. According to Brig. Bret. Javed Shima, the ministry's then spokesman, about 100 convicts fled after rioters burst into multiple jails. Around 25 banks, 100 automobiles, and 4 fast food restaurants were reportedly set on fire by demonstrators in Hyderabad, according to police and witnesses. The police and paramilitary forces had been instructed to shoot aggressive protesters on sight. According to officials, there were military deployments in several regions of Sindh, and banks and schools were shuttered nationwide. Government instructs troops to exterminate the Taliban in northwest regions as of May 7, 2009. The armed forces carried out a significant operation after the government asked the army to begin an offensive against insurgents in Swat. The nation was dedicated to destroying Al-Qaeda and its allies, President Asif Ali Zardari promised U.S. President Barack Obama in Washington at the time. While thousands of residents evacuated the area, security forces bombarded Taliban positions in Swat with aircraft and helicopters. Then Prime Minister Gilani stated that decisive steps must be taken. The armed forces have been called in to eliminate the militants and terrorists to protect the people and restore the honor and dignity of our homeland. On August 1, 2014, Islamabad was secured. By Article 245 of the Constitution, the government sent the army to Islamabad to assist civilian law enforcement organizations in safeguarding the capital for the following 3 months. It was assumed that the deployment was made to handle the PTI's planned Long March, which was set to take place on August 14 of that year. Pervez Rashid, the information minister at the time, denied the possibility that the choice had anything to do with the march before it was made. According to a spokesperson for the Interior Ministry, the capital was not being handed over to the army. A military component would support the police and civil administration at essential installations and function as a fast response force. Army's deployment in Islamabad has been extended as of September 8, 2017. By Article 245 of the Constitution, the administration agreed to extend the Army's presence in the capital for 3 more months to continue deploying 350 troops to assist civil law enforcement authorities. November 25, 2017, at the Faizabad interchange, against demonstrators, the federal government ordered the army to be deployed by Article 245 after a day-long operation against TLP demonstrators tented at the Faizabad junction outside of Islamabad on November 8 proved fruitless. The army was requested to assist civilian law enforcement agencies in securing critical sites such as the Foreign Missions, Foreign Office, Parliament House, Presidency, and Prime Minister houses, and the principal offices of the court. On the Sawan Bridge in Rawalpindi, demonstrators set cars on fire and blocked down markets. Mosques nearby reportedly issued announcements encouraging people to participate in the protest. Military sources claim that the army chief rejected using force against his people because he believed that the public's confidence in the army couldn't be compromised for little gains. Negotiations were resumed with the protesters to terminate the protest, and the administration agreed to several of their demands. The agreement paper is signed by several people, including the former IC Commander Major, General Faiz Hamid, the TLP leader Khadim Hussain Rizvi, and the former Interior Minister Ahsan Iqbal. May 10, 2023, to manage the protests that followed Imran Khan's detention in Islamabad, Punjab, and KP. On Wednesday, the Interior Ministry sent the army to Islamabad, Punjab, and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa to resolve the deteriorating law and order situation in critical cities throughout Pakistan. The federal government was pleased to authorize the deployment of army troops and assets for maintaining the law and order situation across Punjab in aid of civil power, according to the Interior Ministry's notification, a copy of which is available with dawn.com. The ministry said, the government decided to exercise the authorities given under Section 4(3)(2) of the Anti-Terrorism Act, 1997, to discharge such functions as stated in the said Act, and Article 245, Functions of Military Forces, of the Constitution.